Erev Tov Rabbi say, one of the Chevra asked, can you kasher a grill for Pesach? So the answer is sort of, maybe. It depends on your grill. And we'll explain what that means. Because, strictly speaking, halacha l'maaseh, if you have old school, like, charcoal grill, open bucket with coal that you have a grate on top of, and that's where you're grilling your meat, I don't think that there's any problem kashering that for Pesach. How would you kasher that for Pesach? So you would kasher it the same way that you kasher anything that requires libun, meaning heating up to the point that it glows. Which you have one of two options. Either you could fill it up with charcoal, fill it up to the top. The best way to do this would be to fill it up with charcoal all the way to the top, and then, or put some bricks at the bottom, fill it with charcoal, light the coals. Put the grate on, light the coals underneath, and then put more coals on top, and light the coals on top, and then give it an hour or so, getting really hot to the point that those coals are burning, and you're good to go. Meaning that will destroy any chametz that is on it, in it, around it, everything. Easy peasy. That would be how you kasher. There's another way of doing, which might be even easier, which is you can take your grill. The top of it, like the thing that meaning the bottom you'll burn out, but if you want to really clean out the grate that you put the meat on, so the best way to do that would be just put it on your self-clean oven when you put the self-clean cycle, and then mazel tov, right? Then the whole thing is toast. There's nothing that's going to survive that. Everything that's on there is going to be destroyed, and your grate is now kosher l'Pesach. That's easy. So that kind of grill, absolutely not even a question. You can kasher that for Pesach. The problem is with a lot of the grills that we have today, it's a little bit fancier. They're a little bit fancier. So I think most of the Chevra at this point have like the gas grills with the thing that closes and the things on the side and like the knobs it's not like a simple grill situation. You're talking about a lot of different components, and I don't want to get too personal here, but my grill is not clean. I mean, it's not unsanitary, but it's not like we clean it often. It's, it's got stuff all over it, bits and pieces of charcoal and burnt and drippings and whatever it is, and it's all over. That's normatively how it works, right? Meaning it lives outside, and you grill meat on it, and you make sure that the grill is clean when you put the meat on, and then mazel tov, you move on with your life. Which means that in order to kasher that for Pesach, in theory, if you could heat up everything to the point that all of it is going to be destroyed, then sure, absolutely. But there's no way of doing that just by turning it on. Because the grates will get very hot. That's fine. You can kasher the grates. That's the easy part. The problem is everything else, because it has a closure that there's a lot of steam that hits that. How are you going to kasher that? And then all the side things and all the knobs and all the buttons and all the other Narishkat that you have in modern grills today, those things are much more complicated to kasher. There's plastic knobs, and then there's metal handles, and then there's the side wing things and the lid and the thermometer thing. Like all of those things require kashering, and I think that they probably all require kashering, at least like libun kal, but probably libun. It is interacting with stuff that's being heated up to through open flame, or at the very least with some very heavy steam, vapor, and all the rest of it. Which means that I think that the biggest challenge that you have is that with those things, you're going to need to clean it really, really well before you kasher it, because you're not going to kasher the whole thing with libun, because that'll destroy your grill. Meaning you won't have a grill. If you were to blowtorch your whole grill, you're not going to have a grill anymore. The grill is not made to be able to withstand that kind of heat coming from the outside of it. But the outside of it also has surfaces, also has stuff, which is why I think when it comes to a poshet simple regular grill that there's no there's nothing other than a fire and a grate, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. But the more complicated grills, I think it's much more tedious. It is kasherable. I'm not saying it's not kasherable. I'm not convinced that anybody is putting in enough time and elbow grease to clean it well enough that you could kasher it with hagala or kasher it with libun kal. You're going to end up with stuff still there. So my recommendation is not to attempt to kasher those grills. And then the follow-up questions, which nobody's asked yet, but probably is coming, is I think the same thing is true with like the smokers. You have some of the chevra have smokers. So there's the pellet smokers, the gas smokers, and so all of those things. I think it's the same thing. If you're talking about like old school pitmaster, like just a barrel that you stick, I think you can kasher all of that. But the stuff that we have today with all the bells and whistles, a lot of those things are plastic components. They're not made to withstand that kind of heat from the outside. And they all get dirty. They all get schmutzig with like all the other stuff that's going on. I think you have to clean all of those things very, very, very well before you can consider kashering them. And again, I'm not convinced that anybody is going to be doing any of those things. So this is the klal, is that if you can, in theory, kasher well, meaning clean everything really, really well and blowtorch it, great. Nothing wrong with that. And in industry, that's how they do it. And in commercial situations, you have a commercial grill, they kasher the commercial grill. I think all of that's fine. But a lot of our stuff that we use at home is not really made to withstand those kind of temperatures. And even the things that they say can get to a particular heat, if you do it and then you call the company and say, my thing bust, they'll be like, well, you didn't use that in the way that it's supposed to be used, so your problem, right? I think that's important to know. Along those lines, and this question came up today as well, just in terms of modern products, there's a lot of people buying a lot of new things for Pesach because you need new stuff in the kitchen, whatever the case is. This question comes up with regards to Tevilas Kelim. The question arises, if the thing says on it, don't submerge this thing in water, so what do you do in terms of toveling it? This becomes complicated. For example, somebody asked me today, what do we do about, we got a new urn for Pesach. Our old urn was dying, was broken. You can kasher an urn, no problem. But we got a new urn for Pesach, and it has a big warning label on it that says, don't dunk this in water. So in previous years and generations, poskim used to recommend, no problem, dunk it in the mikveh, and then leave it to dry for like 2-3 days, and then mazel tov, you have, why don't they want you to dunk it in water? Because they want to make sure that before you plug it in, all of the water is dried up, that there's no problem with it. And then it's not going to start a fire, you're not going to have electrical components that have liquid. It's going to make a problem. But the reality is today that it's not the same kind of machines. Almost all of our electrical appliances today have some kind of like microchips in them. They all have little silicone chips that if you put it in water and water gets in there, those things are going to fry. And if those things fry, you're going to end up with problems with regulating the temperature and the electricity, and things start blowing up. So there are three options within the poskim today. 3 options. Option number 1 is do it anyway and hope that it works, right? Meaning dunk it, hope that it works. Option number two is what Rav Aaron Lichtenstein used to do. It's a hard thing to do, but the halacha is that if you don't own something, you don't need to tovel it. So in theory, you could sell your Pesach urn to a nachri and just know that they own it. It's theirs. Meaning your housekeeper owns your urn. She can't use it, but right? Don't bring your stuff there, right? But it's yours. It's not mine. That you could do, or what Rav Lichtenstein used to do, which is declare all of those things ownerless, declare them hefker. So he had a toaster, apparently, that was hefker. He didn't own it. And he was giving shiurim, I think, in Tyrus, in Tevilas Kelim. And some of the guys from the Gush were over at his house one Purim, and one of the guys remembered this halacha that Rav Lichtenstein is mafkir all of these things. So he thought it was Purim was funny. He picked up the toaster. He said, "Okay, the toaster is now mine." Rav Lichtenstein said to him, "Yeah, now it's yours, because it didn't belong to me. We were using it, but it's not ours." He says, "No, Rebbe, I want to give it back to you." He said, "No, it's not mine. Now it's yours." Felt very bad about that. So playing games on tzaddikim and Rosh Yeshivas is not always a good suggestion. But Rav Shechter Shlita has a tremendous chiddush within the world of Tevilas Kelim, and that is, if it is functionally impossible to continue using the kli after you tovel it, it's potter from Tevilah. You don't need to tovel it. Don't need to tovel it. And that's what Rosh Hashanah passes halacha l'maisa. Meaning, if you have a kli that says you cannot tovel this, otherwise it's going to break, so then you don't need to tovel it. It's not something that requires tevilah, and that is what I recommend to people to do. If it says on it, don't put this in water, so in years gone by, you could put it in water and then wait a few days because it was just electrical, it was just wires. Now it's components, that with the LEDs, and those things get dangerous. You don't want to mess around with it because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But those components are very, very, very cheap. Like they're very cheap. They don't put high quality components. I mean, they might look pretty, but it's not like high quality components. And if you end up getting water stuck in those things, you might end up with a problem. And we don't want anybody chalila to end up getting hurt. So if it says don't dunk it in water, you have the right to say I'm not going to be toveling that. To be continued.